Hello and welcome to another video game story time with me, Sky Fellowship. In today's episode, I'm struggling to figure out exactly how I want to coin it, and I might just have to go for like childhood confusion. I can't think of an actual good title, but the topic is about how, well, this video game here, I am currently playing, I think it's officially called The Adventures of Batman and Robin. It might just be Batman and Robin, but it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up. As you can see here, I'm playing as Batman. I'm beating up bad guys. It's just your standard, you know, side-scrolling beat-em-up. And growing up, there were a lot of games like this. And I don't mean side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I mean a lot of games like what my actual topic is. And some people might already be ahead of me and might have been able to figure out exactly what this episode's going to be. Because again, the confusion of childhood. But there's a lot of games that, as an adult, I would stand there and find all the adults and it's like, oh my god, what did you used to play as a child? What did you used to play as a kid? It's like, oh, I love this. Like, I used to play zombies at my neighbours. Just like, oh yeah, I used to play that as well. And then you find out that some people had Super Nintendos, some people had Mega Drives. Or Genesis, depending on where you live. And it's like, oh yeah, and I used to absolutely love this Batman and Robin game. It's just like, oh, I think I know which Batman and Robin game it. Like, was it about the series that was out at the same time? So, like, the animated series with Harley Quinn and everything. Yep, that's the one. It's oh, yeah, it was a brilliant game. Like, I've always loved side-scrolling beat-em-ups. What do you mean it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up? Well, it was like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. I mean, you know, like, Streets of Rage. You had a Mega Drive. Like, surely you played Streets of Rage. Yes, I played Streets of Rage. Batman and Robin was not a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Because to me, Batman and Robin was more of a side-scrolling Contra-style game, like a shoot-'em-up, where basically you're throwing constant amount of batarangs from enemies that are coming at you from all angles, as if you're playing a Contra game. And yeah, that's why this episode is called The Confusion of Childhood, because there are so many games that I grew up playing and talking to people about, and it turns out we actually were talking about totally different games, and that doesn't happen these days. And that's something that is so fucking bizarre with actual video games, that this was even a thing. The fact that it was a thing is weird. Could you imagine, and I know someone's going to mention Spider-Man, because the Spider-Verse movies kind of did this, and you've seen how that played out, is my answer to that. But could you imagine if you released a movie, and that movie in the UK was a totally different movie in the US, and a totally different movie in Germany? Well, that's what happened with video games. Because the SNES version was different to the Genesis version, was different to the TurboGrafx version. To be fair, that's one of those things where I didn't grow up with the TurboGrafx, so there might be some games out there that were different on all systems, but I know fine well there are games like that where there's loads of different versions, and it's something that's actually started to be collected, essentially. We're starting to get, like, Disney collections where it's you get every version of The Lion King, every version of The Jungle Book, and there's games like Maximum Carnage, like the Maximum Carnage Collection, whatever it's called, the Maximum Collection, where you get Spider-Man Maximum Carnage and Separation Anxiety, and you get the Genesis version, and the Mega Drive version, and the SNES version, and the NES version, and the Turtles Collection, where it gives you the Turtles version, it gives you the Nintendo version of the Turtles arcade game, and then it gives you the arcade version, and you know, there's so many of the exact same game, but also not the exact same game. This is a totally different genre. It still is Batman. The sprite even looks similar. Like, until the enemies actually started coming on screen, you could almost be forgiven for thinking, you know what, this is the same game, it's just a different level and a different camera point, and it still is a side-scroller. But yeah, it's, I definitely wouldn't call this a side-scrolling beat-em-up. And it's like, when I was talking to people, it's like, I understand now why you're thinking, well, I guess maybe you could call it a side-scroller. I mean, you were side-scrolling and you do punch and kick things, but it's a lot more like Contra than Streets of Rage, and you just said it was like Streets of Rage. Yeah, it's wild that this was actually a thing. And for so many people, Aladdin, another one, Aladdin on the SNES versus the Mega Drive. I know for a fact Aladdin on the Mega Drive is considered one of the god-tier platformers back in the day. The game on the Super Nintendo was usually hated on. Now, a lot of people think it's unfairly hated on. It is like a better game than it seemed, but it's because that was one of the games that, because it was Aladdin and it was like a massive thing, people had figured out, actually, this is a totally different game made by totally different people, and it's a totally different thing entirely. And yeah, it's just wild that games were allowed to do that. Like, I mean, I understand why they were allowed to do it, and at the end of the day, you can get loads of different Batman games, loads of different Spider-Man games, and they all play differently, and there's like the Spider-Man games that are 2D like this, and then there's the Spider-Man games from Insomniac, and there's the Spider-Man games from the Tobey Maguire movies. Like, they're all Spider-Man, but they're all different games. Like, I'm not saying that, because at the end of the day, we do have the amount of ideas and everything. But this was specifically the adventures of Batman and Robin. Both games are the adventures of Batman and Robin. Both games have the same title screen, pretty much. In fact, actually, can I set up the title screen? This might take multiple edits if I do this, but they've got the same title screen with different music, despite them basically having the same title screen. Yeah, I'm going to have to make cuts, I think. So yeah, this is the intro of the Mega Drive game. And obviously all of this is going to eventually end with Batman and Robin. To be fair, if I actually skip, then I get to that. The Adventures of Batman and Robin. And now for yet more work. We have the Adventures of Batman and Robin. Now, obviously, they're not identical. But at the same time, if you were a kid and you pick up the box of both games and you see this title screen, you would assume, they must be the same game. Because they're clearly trying to be pushed as the same game, essentially. Like, they've got very similar art, very similar outlook, and it's weird that this was ever a thing in games, because they are so drastically different, and I actually like both of them, and I'm glad that I discovered this when I was an adult, because I'd only ever played one of them, and when I found out that there was another one, and it was a totally different game, it's like, okay, so I guess I'm gonna play that one now. It is weird, and it's just something that doesn't happen anymore. You don't get, I mean, I know I'm about to mention exclusives, but like Gears of War, it's an Xbox game, but it's finally out on the PlayStation, and Microsoft didn't make Gears of War on the PlayStation a totally different game. It didn't go from being a third-person shooter to a first-person shooter. It didn't go from being a third-person shooter to an on-rails adventure game. It's still Gears of War. They're releasing Halo again. It's still Halo. That released Forza Motorsport on both consoles. Forza 5. To be fair, it might have been Forza Horizon 5. Forza's Forza, you know. Like, they're still the same game. And then we have, obviously, Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is the same game on the Xbox as it is on the PlayStation, as it is on probably the Nintendo Switch too by the time this video goes up. Maybe, I don't know. I honestly... It's one of those that... depending on when I actually bother to put it up, I know there's stories about how they might be porting it, but when it'll eventually get there, then it's going to be the same game, and it's the same game on the PC. It's just so weird that this was a thing, and even weirder is the fact that, as I say, a lot of people didn't realise it. The likes of Aladdin were considered rare. It was very rare that people actually understood that they were different games. The amount of times that I grew up and was speaking to people and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to love The Lion King, and it's like, how did you play that? That was an unplayable mess. And it turns out it's because one of the versions of The Lion King was an unplayable mess. Yeah, it's weird that this ever happened in games, and why the hell can't I figure it out? Oh, it's wall jumping. So yeah, it's just one of those. The video's done. I'm definitely fried. My throat is absolutely killing me. And I've lost my plot. Doing all of these setups for the cuts, I've kind of lost my train of thought. So I am kind of done though anyway. And I'm going to say, if there's any games that you grew up loving, and it turns out they actually had another version, like be it a SNES version, a Genesis version, anything like that, you might want to look into it, because at worst, you'll find out that you played the good version. At best, you might actually find out that you played the bad version, and at very best, you might find out that you did play the good version, but the other version is just as good, and maybe you want to get on that and actually play it. So yeah, until next time, I've been Sky Fellowship. I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'm fighting the urge to do it, but my throat's killing me. It's probably the only time I'll be able to do this. I'm Batman. Yeah, that was shit. I know it was shit, but I had to do it. Right, until next time, bye!